Now that tea is delicious. But you know what's more delicious than matcha? That's right, blowing up lands. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Ian has asked me to play with Goblin Settler. So this is a card that has seen a tiny amount of Legacy play in the time that I have been playing Legacy, where it was often a tutor target off a Mog catcher, which lets you tutor for a Goblin and put it directly into play, and then sometimes it would be copied by a card like Kiki Jiki. So why are we revisiting this now? Well, number one, Goblins is a tier 1 or very close to it archetype, depending on who you ask and, where the metagame swing is at any given time. And number two, and more importantly, I think it has good synergy with a new Goblin. There's this card, you might not have seen it before, it's called Broadside Bombardiers. It's pretty good. So our goal with this is to blow up a land and then fling the Goblin Settler body at our opponent's face for 6 damage. The 1/1 Goblin creature that you get attached to the sinkhole is not particularly good, but when it turns into 6 damage later on in the game, that is actually pretty legitimately scary. So let's take a look at the deck list that we're going to be playing today. So we are going Goblin Stompy. And in case you haven't seen this before, our end game is Muxus, where we just have an absurd number of goblins, and this is just our 6 mana, I win the game either this turn or next turn spell. But in the early game, we're just going to be an aggro deck with Name Sticker Goblin going and powering out activations of Battlecry Goblin, or otherwise allowing you to put out multiple aggressive creatures, or potentially just refueling immediately so that you can try again. There's a couple of different ways I think that you can try to optimize for Goblin Settler in particular. I think this is the build that ends up having a powerful deck that has Goblin Settler with some synergy in it. I think this is the happy medium. You can go deeper, and you can also play Fable of the Mirrorbreaker so that you can copy Goblin Settler. But if you start doing that, then cards like Cavern of Souls become noticeably worse. So I think you choose either to lean into Goblins or to lean closer to the Moon Stompy plan. But a lot of times the Moon Stompy deck is just going to have more efficient ways of killing you. Like with Caves of Chaos Adventurer, and like they're trying to do a very different Blood Moon sort of thing. Whereas we're just trying to get the opponent dead here, and curving something like a Rabblemaster in to blow up your, let's say, like white mana source so you can't remove Rabblemaster is like actually pretty legit. So I think this is a good way to play it. As far as the sideboard here, there's a couple of major decisions. Number one, do you play Pyrokinesis or do you play Fury? Pyrokinesis helps out with creatures that can be flashed in during combat, your Orcish Bowmasters, your Endurances, and things of that nature, whereas Fury is hard castable later in the game. If you don't have Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, I think it is a pretty close decision. If you do have Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, I think Fury is much better. And then you have which piece of Graveyard Hate do I play? Fairy versus Leylines do very different things and require different answers. I have opted for Leyline here, as my deck closes the game fast enough that if I start with this in play, I can probably murder my opponent before they can both remove the Leyline and go off. But I think Fairy is perfectly reasonable as well. Yeah, so with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the league here. If you find yourself looking for any legacy cards, or actually standard cards too, basically, if you need cards, consider checking out toamagic.com. That is Tales of Adventure. I have bought from them a ton in the past. If you need power, they've got it. You need dual lands, they've got it. You need standard cards, they've got like 95%, maybe 99% of them in stock at any given time. So check them out. They support me and a lot of other awesome content creators. With that being said, let's battle. Hello, Phil from the future here. If you're here to watch lands getting blowed up, round 3 is the one that you're going to want to watch first if you're on a limited amount of time. Enjoy the show. Okay, weird opening hand where I can like play a turn 1 Rabble Master, but then I don't have a reasonable play to follow that up for a very long time. I think I'm just going to mulligan this one. Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Imprint 1 Goblin Settler, Spirit Guide, immediately Settler, then play Broadside the next turn. Yes, I think I keep this and get rid of Muxus. Days will be a little backbreaking. Wasteland will too, honestly. That said, I think the hand is, like, very obviously a keep. Sure. So that's the scariest thing, is a turn 1 evasive creature. Okay, so they are just going to draw both immediately instead of, like, using it to mess with a Delver trigger. Take your redraws. Another Chrome Mox. Sure. It's so sweet for me if they Force of Will this. Alright, they did not. So I maybe just play Broadside and intend on throwing a Chrome Mox at this Delver here, rather than going all in on Goblin Settler and then getting blown out by Days. I think this line plays around Days much better. Note that I'm not playing out the Spirit Guide ahead of time because I'm hoping to throw a naked Chrome Mox at this Delver. Alright, we hit on in. Opponent's at 17. Cast a new Chrome Mox. No imprint. Do this, target Delver, throw that. And the board is clear. And now, assuming I don't get Wastelanded or whatever, it's just Goblin Settler into Fling for a large amount of damage. But not today. New Soul Land off the top would sure be sick. Ooh, Bolt is rough. The third bobble. So this is the classic way that decks like this lose, is that the initial threat is answered and then Wasteland happens. And now, like, the Daze type temporary permission cards are very actively good. Or terrified of Murktide Region at this point. Sure. I will absolutely trade creature for creature here. See how my opponent feels about it. I think they feel like another Lightning Bolt, unfortunately. Oh, sure, they can scry first. And they like their card. Alright, and they're not going to give up their threat. Petty Theft the Mox. Petty Theft the Mox, sure. They got rid of a Murktide Regent. Sure. Put this on Goblin and crash in for 3. We're technically winning the race right now, but like there's a Brazen Borrower hanging out in exile, and my opponent binned a Murktide Regent. Like, admittedly, it wouldn't have been a particularly big Murktide Regent, but like they binned a threat, which probably means that they have another threat. I think they just have another Murktide. I am correct. So the board is stalled. I can't attack into this successfully. I think at this point I'm stuck. My opponent is just going to be ahead in terms of damage, especially if DRC becomes a 3/3 this turn. Like, I just get put on a 2-turn clock and my Goblin Settler won't matter anymore. Okay, cool. We at least dodged the worst possible timeline. Sure. Alright. So I'm not technically dead next turn, but life's bad. Yeah, that's a very good force, because that stops me from caverning in a 4-drop. And at this point, I am always taking 7, and I am dead if the top of the library flips Delver, or I'm dead to a Bolt, or if my opponent is Grixis and not just straight blue-red, I'm also dead to Bowmaster. We come out a little bit too slow here. We can get some copies of Pyrokinesis to remove early game creatures for the post-sideboard games. This is not a Goblin Settler matchup. Like, I want this versus like the Beans decks, the 3+ color control decks, but my opponent requires so little mana to operate that I don't think this is correct here. I could play Chalice, it's medium. I could play Leyline, it's also just fine. I think I am just going to try to kill my opponent for the game that I'm on the play, and then I'll reconsider when I'm on the draw. Okay, I have multiple good 3-drops. I'm not great versus Wasteland. I have a removal spell for early creatures. This is unexciting, but fine. I don't know that I am going to be favored to win this game, but I don't think a mulligan is correct either. Not very good at drawing Name Sticker Goblin so far. Alright, so we're on a slow start. My opponent mulliganed once. There's the DRC. I think I'm just like not going to let my opponent surveil. I think I'm just going to go ahead and Pyrokinesis this now. I don't really see the Goblin Matron being a reasonable card to cast this game, and I don't want to unlock Force of Negation by like passing the turn here. The thing that I am afraid of is Counterspell into Wasteland. That's the thing that beats me. Lightning Bolt into Wasteland, also pretty bad. Sure. So opponent gets a little information here. Alright, is there the follow-up Wasteland? No, there's not a second land drop, in fact. Sure, I think I just play another Rabble Master. That one gets answered. Now my opponent knows that I don't have another land drop, but they don't have another land drop, so mana is currently the bottleneck for both of us. Where I think if they miss this land drop, I'm in really good shape to win. I think I just get one of these in play this turn. And I don't think I fling a creature. Well, I'm not given the option. 1, 16. Land drops are so scary for me because they represent like Murktide Regent or me getting wastelanded. Ponder into Wasteland is still quite bad for me. Like, I don't really have a clock in play. This 1/1 doesn't count. So Murktide can happen next turn. So I would like this turn to be a banger. Battlecry Goblin, I can activate once. Is not enough power for the pack tactics, which I think means that I just broadside. Hopefully in a way that doesn't lose me life. Again? Alright. I am terrified. So like my opponent doesn't have land, so they have to have something, and like they have interact with me heavily. Sure, the Grafdigger's Cage doesn't do anything right now. The Delver doesn't really do anything right now. Both? Days be damned, I think. Yeah. So this is 2 damage this turn, followed by a shit ton of damage next turn that I'm not even going to bother to count. It will probably just be lethal. Alright, cool. We are kind of lucky that that was a Delver and not a Murktide. So when I'm on the draw, do I want to Leyline or anything? I could. The Leyline's only good if it's in my opening hand, and I won't mulligan for it, so I think I'm just not going to. This is not a fast hand. Do I want to keep this anyway because it has a Pyrokinesis to remove an early threat and then uncounterable Name Sticker Goblin into something else? I might. Sure. Targeting themselves here, probably for the purpose of deciding what to do with a fetch land. They don't like it. So now they get to surveil and select with the bauble, which is honestly a cool interaction. Take your card. Are you my red land that I'm pitching to Pyrokinesis? Or my red card that I'm pitching to Pyrokinesis? As of right now, the answer is yes. I think I'm just going to play this rather than doing this as a tapped land. Sure. Second creature. I will let my opponent surveil here. I don't have a choice. I will let this resolve. And I think just clear the board immediately rather than allow my opponent to continue to get the selection of DRC. I am punished. My opponent gets another surveil for me not firing it off in response to the ponder. I didn't really want them to know that I was getting rid of this, though. Sure. And then we'll just attempt to take this creature out. Excellent. Redraw? I don't really want another Pyrokinesis. That is absolutely not what I'm looking for here. I'm kind of operating under the assumption that, like, Name Sticker Goblin probably doesn't work out particularly well. Like, it probably eats a Lightning Bolt or a Hydroblast once it's in play, and that I am playing a fair game that eventually ends in a Muxus. Slightly scared of Wasteland still, slightly scared of Murktide Regent still, fine against, like, Delvers and DRCs. I don't think I Pyrokinesis away any of these cards at this time. Rabble Boy. Let's use Name Sticker Goblin as the bait spell here, so that this eats a removal and a better card doesn't. So here's the trigger. Oh, we get 6 mana. I can just shove. Daze and Force are on for that. When it has 3 cards. They have Brainstormed. The Delver's set up to flip. Playing Rabble Master isn't great. Playing Goblin Ringleader is kind of mid. If my opponent could Hydroblast and stop the Name Sticker Goblin, they might have stopped that already. I think I'll shove. It is days. They love you. I think I don't Pyrokinesis yet. Like, I would love to see if I can get a second creature here. And I might draw a worse red card than the red cards that are currently in my hand. Sure. That's annoying. Now I'll probably end up doing a Pyrokinesis on the Delver. Force of Negation is currently on. I think that's fine. I think it's better to do it now than let my opponent like untap and have Brainstorm fetch before they do so. This gets Hydroblasted. I resolve Battlecry Goblin, which is a reasonable card on this board. Sure. 2 damage. So now I can just funnel damage into Battlecry Goblin for the rest of the game, and I beat the onboard Delver. So we're now scared of like a Murktide Regent that just comes in and is larger than my stuff. It's another Delver. I am at 14. Doing okay here, but it's a little scary. So do we have a Lightning Bolt as the last card here? It is a Hydroblast. Sure. Now I'm not doing okay anymore. So life totals are similar, but my opponent gets the first attack here, and if this Delver flips, I am really under the gun. Okay, we dodged that. Hopefully the card is just a land. Okay, it is. This helps Delver flip next turn. Got a Volk out of the way that would not have flipped the Delver. I think I need a land this draw step. That's basically a land. So I'll get 3 damage in this turn. My opponent goes to 9. The problem here is that my opponent can like put on the brakes and do Sworded Shield. Oh, nice. The Delver doesn't flip. That's great. Delver not flipping means that I'm not dead to an attack step next turn. Yeah, so they hold back, so my Rabblemaster is not great. Am I willing to trade Rabblemaster for Delver? Probably. I get in for 4 points of damage, and I play a Matron that gets a broadside. Yeah, I'm willing to make that trade. So make token, attack on in. We'll get this trade. I assume my opponent will not block with Delver. Sure. Opponent's at 5, and I'm going to threaten lethal next turn. So we do Matron. Yes. I'm going to think real quick. Is Battlecry Goblin better than Broadside? Broadside gets stuck in hand if Ancient Tomb gets wastelanded. Battlecry Goblin doesn't. If I get wastelanded, still a 2-turn clock. Broadside is just lethal if it resolves. I think I'm going to take Broadside still. Broadside, Fling, either Matron or Name Sticker Goblin is just lethal without involving the attack step at all. Delver flips to Meltdown. Opponent can fetch that away. They do not have any remaining land cards. That's a wasteland. Sure. So if I attack with everything, Delver trades with this so my opponent doesn't die, and I still have 3 lethal bodies on board. This is still fine. Send it. So I have triple lethal bodies on board. My opponent can't cast something like a Fury or a Pyrokinesis. They would need something a little weird like a Pyroclasm to just immediately kill me, which they do not have, so we put a win on the board. Settler obviously not great in the tempo matchup, but hopefully it shines in other rounds. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Okay, this hand goes turn 1 Name Sticker Goblin into something else. This will be perfectly fine. We're probably City of Traders, Chrome Mox, Imprint, Spirit Guide, Name Sticker Goblin, and then we kind of see where we roll from there. We could keep Spirit Guide in hand to play around days, potentially. All right, well, my opponent can make some decisions for us. We're probably playing against the blue-black sort of tempo deck list that's going around, the Riscaminator, sort of a tempo reanimator thing. Sure. I'm thinking whether or not I want to Goblin Ringleader on turn 1. That sounds kind of nice. Well, let's just play this first. If my opponent wants to daze that, they can if they want. I think I want to Cavern of Souls this card, which is a little weird, but I think correct. As long as I find anything off of this, this is fine. As long as, you know, it's not just like 4 non-god. Holy fuck. Yeah, that's why I did this. I get to just start attacking from turn 1. I could play another uncounterable Goblin Ringleader on turn 2, hopefully finding a Name Sticker Goblin that just immediately gets me to Muxus the following turn. My opponent's grief did some work. Like, they can grief me again. It only goes so far. That's not amazing here. I can Matron Force Sticker Goblin, but not play it this turn. I think I'm just going to shove another Ringleader and continue to stay aggressive. Yeah. Find a Rabble Master. This is fine. I probably lose a Ringleader to a Orcish Bowmaster here. Oh my gosh, no one could have seen this coming. So. Oh, okay, so my opponent is going to save 2 life here. Hyper conservative play. Unsure whether or not that's correct without kind of seeing more information about their hand. I am unsure whether or not it is correct for them to make that land drop prior to brainstorming, because Wasteland is currently very good on me despite the fact that I am ahead on board. Like, I have shown a Muxus that is uncounterable if I get 1 more mana source. Or I guess my opponent doesn't know about the Chrome Mox. What is this, 5/5? 5/5 is reasonable. Ancient Tomb will do. That is Muxus time. And it will be uncounterable. Yeah. So note, if I don't think my opponent has counterspells, like, I can probably create a better turn involving the Goblin Matron, but this should be fine. 6 mana. Without thinking about it, let's just click on this card 3 times and assume that my opponent is dead. Yeah. Muxus, good. So, do I want to Leyline of the Void my opponent? This is something that we talked about on the Eternal Glory podcast recently. Probably the episode that released about 3 days by the time that this airs. I think this is my Monday episode. So the thing about playing Leyline is that my opponent is somewhat likely to just board in a bunch of creatures, like extra Murktides, Dauthi Voidwalkers, things of that general nature. So if I go the Leyline of the Void route, it's very possible that it doesn't actually end up doing that much. And beyond that, Reanimate, in particular, lowers my opponent's life total, which is good for me, who is trying to kill them. So we're playing against tempo, which means that Goblin Settler is, again, not a primo card. Because my opponent's like Grief Reanimate stuff can come out far below it, and by the time I get to 4 mana, like Ringleader is a more attractive play in this matchup because it finds me the broken things in my removal. So unfortunately, I think we have to do this for this in this matchup. Okay, so I have creature removal here. I have a reasonable threat. I have mana. Rabble Master into Battlecry Goblin is a respectable curve. And we'll just see how this plays out. Matron's cool. I could tutor for Sticker Goblin this turn, but I think I'm just going to shove Rabble Master and see what my opponent has to say about that. Sure, that's fine. So the thing about Matron is, like, the longer I wait on the Matron, the better it is, because there's a higher percentage of the time where Matron just turns into the either Name Sticker Goblin or Muxus that is just lethal. All right, my opponent does the scam thing. They are at 14. I am on a 3-turn clock from them. Ancient Tomb is unlikely to change that clock. What about Ancient Tomb plus Shatterskull? If I take 5, I go to 13. Then tapping Ancient Tomb after that ends up being scary. So I just plan on killing my opponent with Muxus. Just hope they don't have a counterspell. I think that's the line. Ow. Because this is 2, 4, 5, 6 for Muxus next turn. And we just hope that Muxus beats Troll, which it probably does, but is not deterministically going to do. I could just get a Broadside and Broadside throw Matron at Troll. That's safer. A counterspell beats either card. Broadside does not get dazed. Either one gets thought seized. Broadside is worse versus spot removal. So it's like open up days versus open up spot removal. There's not actually all that much spot removal in this deck, so I think I'm going to broadside. Also, I'm at 13 life. If I don't tap Ancient Tomb, I have other lines, or like I get another draw step to find outs. All right, so there's a cycle. The cards from Brainstorm are now fresh. Reanimate. Got it. So I need to Pyrokinesis that right now before my opponent gets the extra token, probably. I guess I can Pyrokinesis afterwards and it's the same effect, but this is just better for counter magic reasons. The extra 1 point of damage getting through is a literal turn off the clock. I think this is Pyrokinesis pitching Battlecry Goblin. All right, I get whacked for 6. A Snuff Out is pretty bad. A Force of Will is pretty bad. All right, so I start here. It's in play. I think we're all in. Let's Rabble Master in addition to this. Nice. So make a dude, send everybody in. Opponent goes to 7. I will now broadside, target troll, throw matron, and I have lethal on board. Show me what you can do to stop that. Land drop doesn't stop that. Murktide Regent, I don't believe, stops that. Rabble Master gets blocked. I get in for 4, fling for 5. That doesn't stop that. There needs to be another card in addition to this. All right. Show me that you have another card. Drown in the Lock. That does it. That kills this. I make a token. I can get in for 2 points of damage. This does not actually kill Murktide. Damn, almost brought that back. I don't think I'm going to change sideboarding at all. The hand's a keep. I just have to decide whether or not I want to broadside on turn 1 so it does not get griefed. My opponent having a broadside that can throw griefs and Murktides is very scary. That said, if I use this Spirit Guide immediately, I'm not using it for Muxus, which Muxus is probably my actual plan to win the game. Is just turn 3 Muxus and everything else is bait, so I think I'm just going to make a land drop and pass. Sure, this is fine. That's fine. There is a post-ponder grief. Broadside and Battlecry Goblin are the short-term problems, and Muxus is the long-term problem, so we'll see what my opponent values here. They are valuing the long-term problem, which I think is reasonable. Ooh. Now what do I do? I think I'm playing Cavern either way, but I'm not sure whether or not it is better for me to play Battlecry Goblin and not use Spirit Guide, or play this immediately. I think I just want to play this card and have this in play. And the next turn I can do Uncounterable Broadside off Ancient Tomb Cavern, and potentially also pump if I think that's a good idea. If I use the Spirit Guide for mana for Broadside this turn, then I can't use it for a Battlecry Goblin pump ever. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I think I am doing this with the intention of funneling the mana into Battlecry Goblin, not playing Broadside. Pump, pump, pump. I could play Broadside and expose it to a counterspell and still pump twice. That might actually just be better. Let's do that. All right. So activate. Need to do both of these now because of floating mana reasons. Should not F6. Attack. This triggers. We're probably going to get a Bowmaster here, which is fine. I've got a Goblin token to throw. Oh, so my opponent points at the Goblin token, which is not a hyper efficient way to do that. Yeah, so they don't get their body because they allowed me to throw the thing that they were pinging. So this leaves me with 3 bodies on board, any 2 of which are lethal. Yep, and this is mana spent not answering my stuff, which is very scary for them. And we get the concession. We are 2-0. I only have 2 temporary mana in this hand, so this one is going to be a mulligan. This second hand's fine. I probably just matron for a Name Sticker Goblin on turn 1. But now I guess what land am I throwing back? Or is it Goblin Settler that goes back? It could be Spirit Guide that goes back. Just turn 1 mountain, pass. I'm going to get rid of this, despite the fact that I am on the play. I think I'm going to do this. Slow down by 1 turn, but make my primary cards uncounterable. Keep the Spirit Guide as a way to boost towards Muxus if Sticker Goblin ends up low rolling. Sure, so we are probably playing against some sort of like Mystic Forge, Grim Monolith style artifact deck. I shoved a bunch of Null Rods in this sideboard, right? Yeah, I shoved a couple Null Rods in here. Rappelmaster's fine, but we are just fully on the Matron for Sticker Goblin and attempt to effectively win the game next turn. Maybe literally win the game. We'll see. Like, the One Ring could come down this turn, and that would buy some time. Sure. Is there a key to go with it? No. Well, all right. Well, let's do the thing. With double Spirit Guide here, we always cast Muxus, even if I low roll. This is 6. I will Muxus. Oh my god. Alright. Alright, there is your, Ian, that's what you wanted, right? Double Goblin Settler off Muxus. It did not literally win the game, but damn. Let's see what our opponent can do. 5 mana could be like Paradox Engine into some nonsense. Our opponent has to have something in hand. Like, they have 5 cards, they haven't done anything super meaningful this game yet. So it wasn't keys, it wasn't Grim Monoliths. Could be like a Karn. Alright, now we have a key. Oh, also they could be blue, and they could have like Transmute artifacts stuck in their hand. Like, that's perfectly reasonable. Alright, there's Paradox Engine. This is presumably quite... Oh, no. Alright, my opponent's dead. So, Ancient Tomb, plus this... Play a Battlecry Goblin, activate a Battlecry Goblin, go to combat, swing on in, put Muxus trigger on bottom, Battlecry Goblin, Muxus trigger, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, yeah, very easily lethal. Alright, I think we got a little lucky there, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if opponent's hand was a mulligan, or if they were like very close to going off and couldn't quite get there, or what. So I have these cards that I can think about here. Pyrokinesis and Leyline are not exciting. My opponent's deck should be faster than what it was this game. Chalice on 0 can deny artifact mana, and Chalice on 1 can deny keys. I don't think Goblin Settler is going to be good in this matchup, despite the fact that it just utterly obliterated my opponent this specific game. What is the weakest link beyond that? Probably Ringleaders. Ringleader exists on a like axis of like time that I might not have in this matchup. Yeah, opponent says killing those lands was brutal. Yeah, I agree. I think it was brutal this time. I don't know that that's the average experience though. This hand is good. Chromox plus Null Rod at the same time is like a little awkward. I'm just going to treat this as an incredible 6-card hand and assume that Broadside can throw this Chromox at some point. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Null Rod gets to do some damage here. So Metalcraft is not on, so I don't have to worry about Dismember. So that means that this is a safe play. We'll hope to high roll a little bit on this here. That's the full 6. That's 2 for Null Rod plus Goblin Ringleader. Let's Ringleader first in case I decide that I want to Chromox. Is Broadside better? Let's say no. So let's Ringleader. I get a Muxus. Yeah, I'll just play Broadside next turn and be perfectly happy with that still. 16. Opponent's Ancient Tomb is a bit of a liability here. We've got the One Ring off, we've got Artifact mana off, we potentially have to respect like an Otawara or something of that nature. Bouncing my Null Rod out of play. Yeah, okay, we just got the immediate GG there. And we are 3-0. Alright, this is round 4. My hand is mid. So I can turn 2, play a Name Sticker Goblin. At worst, I Goblin Ringleader. At best, I Muxus. I think Reluctant Keep. I also think I don't play this tapped on turn 1 to play around Wasteland. Taiga. Are we Stormin? Are we Lanzin? Could be Applejacks. Oh, this is a land. I'll take the 3. We're hoping to high roll the 6 here. Force of Will, pitching Lorien revealed. So it looks like we are Beans instead. I'm going to deal a lot of damage. Oh, fuck. It's worse. Rhinos. So the 3 damage that I did to myself is like hyper relevant here. Sure. Everything that's there is expected. So I'm effectively just like dead. Because I take 8 here and go to 9. If I shock this in, I go to 6. That's a suspended crashing footfalls there. Okay. So you're telling me there's a chance. We put this on Goblin. I Goblin Matron for Name Sticker Goblin and then need to I roll 6 next turn or draw a land and hit 5. Broadside's not good enough when I'm this far behind. Okay. So Chalice of the Void on 0 to stop Rhinos is going to be good in this matchup. This is our 3rd tempo match in 4 rounds, which is saying something about the current Legacy format, I suppose. Chromux is very good here. Chromux means that I don't have to max roll to Muxus. Spirit Guide Fire could disrupt this trigger and leave me dead. Not this time. 4 is not going to do it, though. I needed to not low roll. 30% of the time we whiff here. All right, well, let's keep going. I don't really understand how I get out of this from here. I mean, that's a draw 3. It doesn't do any good, though. Because these have trample, so I can block, kill 1, block, take 3 damage. I can't get another creature into play. I fall just a little short here. So Settlers become Chalice of the Void. And then I decide if I want to Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis is 2 cards to answer 1 Rhino. That's not the best. I could Leyline of the Void for Murktide Regent. I'm not super excited about that either. I think for this game that I'm on the play, I'm just going to fire off like this. Okay. How fast do we Muxus? This is like a surprisingly awkward hand for what it is. This is just Chalice on 0 plus Broadside and hope the top of the deck is good. I guess I'm keeping. And I imprint Muxus rather than Spirit Guide because I expect to lose the City of Traders at some point. Force of Vigor is going to be really, really, really good against me. My opponent's going to 5. All right. Imprint. Land. We'll attempt to attack for 2. Drop my opponent to 18. And then we'll see how they feel about Chalice on 0. Force of Vigor, again, quite good. I can throw one of them in response to a Force of Vigor. All right, looks like land pass. Oh ho 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 ho. Hello. This is a highly accelerated clock now. All right, my opponent is at 14. Next turn, I can attack for 4, put my opponent to 10. Play Simian Spirit Guide, throw a Spirit Guide for 5 damage, throw a Broadside for lethal damage. I don't think I'm throwing anything this turn then. All right, so there's second land drop. Yep. We are fine doing this. 5 mana. I'm just going to cast this. The real gem here is just having the extra bodies that I can throw with Broadside. So send in. Opponent's at 10. Broadside number 1 throws a Spirit Guide at your face. Broadside number 2 throws a Name Sticker Goblin at your face. So that is turn 3 Exaxes. Pretty good. I can consider Pyrokinesis on the draw as a way to catch up from turn 1 Rhinos. I am not overly excited. Again, it only answers half of the card. This hand's good. It's not the Chalice Lockout hand that the last one was, but this is a very powerful Name Sticker Goblin that I can choose to do on turn 1 or turn 2, kind of depending on how the first turn cycle develops. But it probably just ends up being Name Sticker Goblin into Battlecry Goblin and activate a bunch of times. Okay, cool. No immediate cascade. I mean, it could happen on my turn still, off double Spirit Guide. A Force of Will on this Name Sticker Goblin is a little rough if I just go for it immediately, but I'm not a coward, so here we go. Excellent. 5 mana. That probably just means this. And activate. So this is bad if my opponent can create 2 rhinos in response. It just blocks this, but otherwise, you know, this is an incredibly swift clock. Okay, yeah, my opponent is at 13. I could get Furied for both of these creatures. We'll see where this goes. All right, it is Shardless Agent time. So my opponent puts 10 power on board. Let's see if anything interesting is revealed. Not really. This is expected stuff here. My mana's a little awkward, again, since I led on City of Traders. Like, losing this land is kind of a big deal in moving towards this Muxus. I'm just going to put some extra bodies onto the field here. And we'll hang back defensively. And I can decide whether or not I think I'm the beatdown as of next turn. Like, I can block rhinos and I can start trading in combat, or I can attempt to just beat down through them. A lot of it depends on whether or not my opponent can just, like... I don't think you play that out at... Well, I guess it depends whether or not you're attacking. Like, it's very possible if they attacked, they just got, like, a massive blowout if I decide to block a rhino. What is this fetch for? Do you have a scry land? Or a surveil land, rather? No? Oh, it must be suspending of footfalls. Okay, it is suspend. So are you attacking or not? They use their fire ice at sorcery speed. They are at the lower life total. I can't tell without seeing their hand here what they're supposed to do. So if I take 8, I go to 12. If I attack them, I can Battlecry, trade Battlecry Goblin for like 5 damage, put them to 7, have 3 bodies on board, which is 4 damage, 5, 6 with Ringleader. I don't think I'm trading. I think I try to kill them through. Like, I have some rips, like another Name Sticker Goblin, that are just incredibly powerful here. A Ringleader is not that. I think I'm going to try to remain the beatdown. I don't think I win the defensive war here. So this gives me the 6 power that is necessary to trigger Battlecry Goblin and try to go wide here. I assume this is the block, and I get half of my opponent's life total, which maybe means that they can't attack me with both rhinos. Probably increasing me to a 2 to 3 turn clock. Oh. Am I just dead to fire to the face? Like, I'm not playing around that at this point. Yeah, I'll take 10. Oh, okay, sure, that works too. So that is 13 damage, and I am dead. Just for giggles, what's the next card? There's a Goblin Rabble Master, which is not more power than just activating the Goblin again. I think my opponent... oh, it's in one of these revealed cards, I guess. I think my opponent Fire Iced... Or no, it's here. I think they did this prematurely. Since I think I had 2 Battlecry Goblins at the time, so dealing with one of them preemptively doesn't really change anything. So I think they missed the opportunity to get a combat blowout, and then they missed the opportunity to fizzle a Name Sticker Goblin trigger that's on my turn. I think that was a really big mistake, but I could not capitalize on that. All right. I have a reasonable opening hand that plays turn 1 Broadside into turn 2 Battlecry Goblin and activate. So the hand's a keep. I'm not going to have a lot of agency and ability to deviate from this plan, but it is highly aggressive, and we'll hope that that's good. I guess if my Battlecry Goblin gets like Thoughtseized or Grief or whatever, I can play a Spirit Guide and hurl it at my opponent's face. All right. Okay. So this is going to be like some sort of 8-cast type thing. All right, Trample, Hexproof, and Haste. I'm not going to control a Planeswalker. Whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, +1/+1 counter, and scry. Okay, so this is effectively a 4/2 right now. Got it. So that's fine. I'll play this as a land. We'll go Yah, Battlecry Goblin, give haste. This is the 6 required for me to do the thing. I'll crash in. I believe that I broadside and just kill this like so, and just deal to 7 this turn rather than 6 by throwing the token. And then next turn, I've got lethal a number of different ways. All right, easy game. So I imagine that this is just like a 1 of in 8 cast. I probably keep Goblin Settler this time in respect of Urza Saga. Like, I assume Null Rods are good, Chalices are good, Trash Mastery is good, Pyrokinesis is probably mid. I don't think I Leyline. My biggest danger here is sideboarding out too many Goblins and making my Muxus hits worse. Probably Ringleader out. That gives me Null Rods and Trash Master. I think respecting Urza Saga is really important. I think I'm keeping the Settlers. I'm not sure what I get rid of for Chalice, because I assume that I want it, but I don't know that I can just like cut 3 Rabble Masters. I guess I'm still at 30 creatures. Maybe 30 creatures is still enough. I don't need that many creatures to just win the game. Oh, this is a turn 3 Muxus. Am I willing to keep that? Just 100% Nakey hope Muxus resolves. No interaction with my opponent. I think I have enough potential good top decks. Like, basically anything that isn't a mana source is a super valid top deck. I think I'm just fine with this. Sure. And Patchwork is going to scale up and do patchwork things. Battlecry Goblin, not particularly good here. Alright, my opponent is going to cycle. I think I'm afraid of a counterspell on Muxus. Okay, it is Sir Ginger again. I haven't seen blue cards yet. They're presumably there, but my opponent could be colorless. Cavern? I think we can wait. I think if we are treating Muxus as this I win the game spell, this is perfectly reasonable. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. That's definitely spooky. Oh, with the artifact land too? Strong. Yeah, so now I just get cracked for 6. I don't get to chump this. So this land tapped. Next turn go. I could cast this to get rid of Sir Ginger as my play for this turn. I don't think Sir Ginger is a problem though. Just going to play that as a tapped land. And Battlecry Goblin. And then we hope my opponent's dead next turn. That is a Ballista purely to scale the creatures here. All right, and Patchwork comes in. I take the 7, and then we see how good Muxus is. Again, I have slightly decreased my Goblin density in these post-sideboard games. Hello. I open myself up to Dismember if I play this card. So while this is incredible if it works, I think just opening myself up to a known card that is in my opponent's deck is probably a bad idea if I can avoid it. And similarly, I don't want to play uncounterable Name Sticker Goblin and then just run into counterable Muxus and I'm actively dead. Okay, so now this happens. I get a 5. I guess I have to math. Is this already lethal? So I activate twice. Everything gets larger. This is 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Not quite lethal. So then I do cast this. Oh, fuck, it was lethal. I broadside throw. Or no, I didn't consider the blocker. It is a Metallic Rebuke, so this will get countered. I'm always activating this because this costs too much. I only have 1 legendary creature, so I always activate that. Let's do a quick math check. So 3, 6, 11, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, plus 8 is still lethal. Now that this is gone, send it. Muxus trigger on bottom. Pump. Muxus. 8. Broadside. Target you. Throw Muxus. Hey, that was pretty impressive. So how do we feel about our good friend Goblin Settler at the end of the league? Given how much tempo that we played against today, it was not good in this league. The place where this would shine is like slower beanstalk control deck lists. And in one of the rounds, like we did live the dream of like Muxus reveal double Goblin Settler, double Sinkhole our opponent, and end up incredibly far ahead. But, you know, at that point, was it the Goblin Settler that was good, or was it the Muxus that was good? And, you know, would have, you know, just finding like a haste enabler or something been just as good as the Goblin Settler? Conceptually, this is a fine way to play Goblin Settler in Legacy. When I think about the top of the format right now, I am thinking about Delver decks, I am thinking about the blue-black Tempo Reanimator deck, and there is a decent amount of other very fast, like low-to-the-ground decks. I think Goblin Settler will also shine against slower Urza Saga decks, where you just have the time to blow up the lands. So I will conceptually give a thumbs up to the Goblin Settler, despite kind of the medium results today. I think this is the sort of thing where like you would need the right metagame, you would need the right time, but it was like not embarrassing to have Goblin Settler in my deck, despite the fact that we sideboarded it out in a lot of the rounds. You know, Beanstalk control is a major pillar of this format, and you will see a decent amount of other control decks floating around as well. And if your opponent isn't just quickly killing you with Murktide Regents and 3-power flyers or 3-power menace creatures, it's perfectly fine. But, you know, when you start thinking about like lining up Goblin Settler versus Reanimate on Troll of Khazad-dûm on turn 1 or turn 2, you know, it doesn't seem so good. With that being said, folks, I hope you all enjoyed. If you find you need some Goblin Settlers of your own, please check out toamagic.com. Use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!